You're listening to Passages, a podcast about great quotes, life, and the wisdom of the Bible. And now your hosts, Drew Kaiser, Jason Pulliam, and Tim Layton.
Welcome, you're listening to Passages. I'm Drew, and I got Jason and Tim with me. We're ready for another night of fun and frivolity.
The night before the 4th. Here
Yes.
we are on holiday eve.
So we don't have to get up early in the morning.
And
I don't.
I don't either.
Oh,
I have the
yeah.
next 2 days off. Man, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Folks, if you hear loud noises in the background, there's the potential of fireworks maybe going off around the building at some point this
I heard
evening.
a rumor about that.
We are
but
not under attack. We are safe in the bunker in our
We're sheltered
studio.
in place.
Yeah,
Undisclosed location.
that's right. Sitting around this old dinner table, mics in front of us. Voices eager.
Wondering where we're going to start with our segment tonight. I think it's supposed to be me
Take it away,
trying
Drew.
to get it ready. So
Well, with
I
all
have
the
a
show
sound
prep we do.
Yeah, that's right. Oh man, we've been working on this one for a long time. I've got a sound clip I want to play for you guys,
All right.
All right.
and I hope you enjoy it. Let me get it queued up here. We have so many sounds to go through. Okay, here it is. See what y'all think about this.
Can we normalize sending the other family money for play dates? So recently, my daughter had a friend over, and I asked her mom for money, and this is how it went. So after the play date, I texted her mom and I said, "Thanks for letting Jamie play today. Please help out with your share of the expenses for the play date, totaling $15 via Venmo. Let's do it again sometime, because I can't keep doing these play dates if it's so expensive." And she said, "Expenses?" And I said, "Yeah, she used supplies and food while she was here. And this way we can do this more often without a monetary obligation on just one party, right? Makes sense." Now, she didn't say much, but she did
No, she
say
didn't.
what supplies. And of course I wrote them down. There was chalk, applesauce, fruit. She sat on the couch, so that's wear and tear. She actually broke a toy. She had 3 juice boxes. She went to the bathroom. She had yogurt. Then she actually sent the money, and I sent her a message thanking her for it, of course. She didn't say anything else, but I said, this will make it easier for us to do more play dates in the future. So what do you
Yeah.
guys think?
What do you? She asked, so I thought we'd answer.
Okay,
This is
was
a viral video.
Was this pre-inflation or post-inflation?
This is recent.
Because I'm talking 3 juice boxes. You're pushing $15 on just that.
Well, she in the video that went viral that goes along with the sound, she put the screenshots of this messaging back and forth between her and her friend, and she's right. The friend did not say much. I think it's because
I'm not
what can
sure
you
that
say?
there'll be a lot more said.
But this is a
going
mom who set up a play date with a former friend.
Uh-huh.
Now I think you would say, and the friend's child came over to her house.
forward. I was thinking it was like, hey, we went down to the bouncy station. Each kid had to pay $15. Can you send
No,
me
it was just over at
$15?
her house.
No, it's just
And
wear and tear on my couch.
And why do we call that a
47 cents.
play date? When did that term come into vogue? Because when I was a kid, you just
going
went
to a
over to your
friend's
friend's house.
Yeah.
And the parents may or may not have known that you were there.
I was going to say there was a lot of mystery as to where you were. And this was pre-cell phone.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Did you guys ride your bike around your neighborhood and just see who was...
I
Yeah,
lived in the middle
unfortunately,
of
no. I was out in the country.
I lived in the middle of nowhere, but I'd get on that bike and ride to my grandparents' house, and I would not always report that I was doing that. But, it was just one phone call away.
Well, we lived in a little neighborhood for a while until I was about 12, and then we moved out to the country. But when I was young, I'd ride my bike to school. I'd ride my bike to friends' houses, and they'd come over to my house.
That's
and
cool.
We just rode all over the place, kind of like your typical, the 80s throwback movies where the kids are on the bikes, E.T. style. That was my childhood. And so we didn't talk play dates. I mean, we might
No.
spend the night over at somebody's
Right.
house or something. But anyway, she arranged a play date for her kid's friend to come over and came over. And I want to go back over the list. She went through it pretty quickly, and I
Okay.
think y'all picked up on it. But she has the dollar amounts on the text message.
Yeah.
I don't think she read that out
No.
on the sound
So
bite.
she has like the wear and tear, what
yeah,
percentage of the...
I got the numbers.
Okay, I want to hear
so,
this.
And it all comes up to 15 that she had asked
Yes,
for.
it's
Which,
$15.
hey, if you get 3 or 4 hours away from your kid, I'll pay $15 for
yeah,
that
I mean,
anytime.
what's $15 to ruin a friendship.
Sounds
because
cheap.
that's what she did.
Yeah.
So chalk, she charged her $1 for the chalk, $1 for the
That's a lot of
applesauce,
chalk.
$1 for the fruit. Sat on couch, wear and tear, $1.
Wow. That's a lot of depreciation on that couch just for that one play date.
The broken toy, it was a doll. She charged her $5. 3 juice boxes was $2. This one is the one that just blows my mind. 3 trips to the bathroom, $3.
Oh, my.
You know, that water is not.
What was she doing in the
that-
bathroom?
That may be the most expensive pay toilet ever.
Well, maybe she charged by the hour or something for the bathroom, like including plunging, cleaning.
Didn't we have to do a pay toilet when we went
I was about to
Russia?
bring that up. We had to pay to use the toilet in Russia.
Had to pay in Peru.
Did you have
Well,
to
no,
pay?
Yeah.
you
Did you
didn't
have to pay for a
But
square?
there was an attendance.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I think you had to pay for some toilet paper.
yeah. You didn't
Square.
pay
Just
necessarily
access.
for
Hey,
the
you got any
use,
of that 0-ply toilet paper?
but if you wanted the paper, you had to pay for that. I think I gave him like a 10 Sole thing and just said, "Let me have the roll. I'll be good. Keep this."
The yogurt was $1, so that's their $15.
They just closed up the toilet for the rest of the day.
Guys, after all the years of our friendship and the time our kids have been sitting together, based on that, I've been sitting here doing the math, and I will be sending y'all an invoice in the next week, collecting for.
All right, here's what I've got to say about this. I believe that it was all it all came to a head around the $5 broken toy.
That's when she got the idea.
I think she's like,
You're
I've
exactly
had it
right.
with this monster, and I'm getting some payback. So she's going to pay me $5 for that toy, and while I'm at it,
yeah,
how
but
much-
what
how much did she cost me for the rest of this?
But don't
day?
you make
what
it
made her want to get online
Yeah.
and post this insanity?
What we're doing for her, we're giving her attention.
And at the end say, "What do y'all think?"
So this is what I think. Don't you get the payment
14
repayment?
million views, by the way. 14 million
14
views.
million.
The repayment for the expense comes from when you send your little monster over to their house and you have a little discussion.
Right.
Susie,
Reciprocate.
make sure
That's
you
the way
break.
this works out.
Make sure you break something while you're there.
Yeah.
Find that vintage Barbie,
Yeah.
and take a leg off.
Or maybe a nice porcelain figure that's sitting on a shelf, or their TV. You know, just something small.
I think, did she end it saying, "Let's do it again sometime"?
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Not going to happen.
Mom, can Susie come over and play today? No, she's not coming over because it costs too much money every time we go.
It's unbelievable. I mean, just unbelievable.
Just her tone when
yeah,
she was
just that know-it-all tone. Why don't more people do this? She said, "Can we normalize?" How did she put it? Can we
Yeah, can
normalize
this behavior? or
How
whatever it
old
is.
are these
this
kids?
behavior? She doesn't say. I'm with the juice boxes.
3
They could
and
be
4?
anywhere from 2 to
26.
38.
Normalize.
I mean, how do you normalize it? You normalize it by by hosting that person at your house at some point.
Yeah, or you're just a human being and you don't charge somebody for sitting on your couch.
We're talking probably a few
Wear
hours.
and tear on the couch, $1.
You know, it's
Well,
different if they're
maybe
going.
maybe she was drawing with that chalk on the couch.
Well, then I would have brought that up instead of just calling it wear and
Wear and
because
tear.
it says sat on couch. Wear
Luckily,
and tear.
if you're
a
like us and
child.
you
Not
have
even
dogs
jumped up and
inside,
down on it.
yeah,
Which
I mean,
was-
my
which was
couch-
one of my favorites when we were kids.
yeah, jump on that.
We had a long, like, shotgun hallway.
Yeah.
And a couch in the den, like, right
Yeah.
through that door. And so you could basically do it like in the Olympics. What is it that you hit the pommel horse or whatever?
Oh,
you know?
the vault?
So you just, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Hit that, flip over.
As long as you don't do a Brian
wonderful.
Meeker and wrap yourself around the end of the pommel horse.
There you go.
You know, the problem at our house is we've got indoor dogs, so our furniture's pretty crappy anyway. I'm not real worried about a kid. They might improve it.
Well, we've all had those, I'll use her term, play dates where a Tasmanian devil comes into the house,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it happens.
Yeah.
And you just close your eyes and wait for it to be over. And if they break something, you don't say anything.
No, but you
mean,
tell
you-
your kid the next time they go to their house to break something.
Well, you might say something like that.
explain
You
to
might
the-
not invite
you
him back
explain
over
to them,
again.
Yeah.
All right, little Johnny, sit here for a second. I'm going to talk. the theme of this story is an eye for an eye.
That's right. Oh, man.
Okay.
Charging
Well,
for play dates. Wow.
I thought y'all would enjoy that.
That's
That's
great.
good. Warm
That
up.
is very good. I like that.
What generation do you think that mom is? We talked about generations a couple of weeks ago.
I saw her face on here for
We're
a few
talking
minutes.
millennial or
I would
or
think millennial.
millennial.
Yeah.
That sounds very millennial.
Maybe early 30s.
Yeah. She probably read it in a self-help book or something about parenting. You know who didn't write a book about that? James Dobson. He'd have never encouraged that.
No.
All right, we're ready to move to number 2. Okay, so
What you bringing us tonight, Tim?
I've got a Yay Sports for you tonight.
Oops.
Oh, that was a record scratch. There we go.
All right.
Yay, sports.
All right.
That's how the podcast is going tonight, the record scratch.
So this one has, in my mind, taken a lot of twists and turns lately.
Okay.
And so I want to bring LeBron James to the table this evening.
That sounded fitting.
So because a lot of things have been going on sort of like around LeBron recently. And so I've been listening to a lot of, various discussion about him and about all of these things. And he's sort of a lightning rod in some positive and negative ways, right? I mean, he's a fantastic basketball player, amazing. In the talk for who's the greatest of all time, although probably, the folks at this table would probably maybe lean more toward Michael Jordan. Or,
Larry Bird.
Larry Bird,
Magic Johnson.
Magic Johnson, right? So, but he scored the most of anyone in NBA history.
Cause he's selfish.
And he also didn't quit twice.
I'm throwing out some good things about him to sort of get started, right? Yeah. So, graduates high school, goes straight to the NBA, perennial all-star from that point forward. And he is now 39 years old. He's been playing in the NBA for over 20 years. Looked up this morning, the average span of an NBA career is 4.5 years, right? And so if you think about it, it's all about speed, fitness, endurance. I mean, playing basketball is
you have to be an athlete,
right?
You got to be in great shape.
And for him to have been able to do that at the highest level for 20 years plus, pretty amazing. Now, I say he's sort of a lightning rod. I think a lot of that began with something called The Decision.
That was when he left Cleveland. Yeah,
right.
I remember that.
So they did this like hour-long thing on ESPN, and it was The Decision. He had played his rookie contract out in Cleveland, and it was time for him to make a decision on, is he staying in Cleveland? Is he going to New York? Is he going, where's he going? And so they did this hour-long thing where I think the proceeds went to like the boys club or something. On the surface, it sounded like a really positive thing. He took a lot of flack for the arrogance associated with it all, because this was where he made this famous comment that he was going to take his talents to South Beach. And then after that, he went down with Dwayne Wade and who was the other guy, Chris Bosh. And they did the not 1, not 2, not 3. How many championships were they going to win? I think he got to 7, when in that whole discussion. So, some of that, you do that kind of thing, you get some blowback. And I find him fascinating because there is a lot of positive, but there's also a lot of negative / it's like he's always trying to stack the deck or tweak the narrative on things. All right. So in terms of the positives, I've mentioned some already, right? High scoring all time, incredible athlete that's dedicated his life to playing basketball at the highest level for over 20 years. By the way, I think if I've got this right, married his high school sweetheart, never been any scandal around any of that, never been any drug issues, never been any scandal related to him, has a good family, We're going to get into his oldest son in just a second, but a lot of positives, right? But still really one of the most polarizing figures in sports. You either like him or you don't like him. All right. So let's talk about like some of the stuff that's been going on lately that's been really interesting around him, because, so just recently, the Lakers went out in the first round of the playoffs this year. And so that's not typical LeBron results, right? He's playing for a championship or at least to get to the finals or something. So, the Lakers right now have LeBron and Anthony Davis, the unibrow, right? So those are their guys. And then it's sort of like, and then everybody else. So not loaded, these days in the NBA, you sort of have to have like a big three to, to really contend. And so they're short, another probably key piece from being a contender. And the time's clocking on LeBron's career, because although he is very fit and he's 39 years old, you're not playing forever in the NBA. And at some point, even though he's amazing and he still plays right with the
Really
young guys,
well, yeah.
This past year, great stats. He averaged 25.7 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 8.3 assists a game. That's all
awesome.
NBA kind of numbers, right? Yeah. And so apparently he was not very happy with the coach, Darvin Ham. Guess what Darvin's doing these days? Looking for a job, right? So Darvin's out on the street. So there was this search for the new Lakers head coach. And for a while, so originally it's like they said, we think J.J. Redick's going to be the guy that gets the job. And then there was a few days where the guy from Connecticut, who's won back-to-back NCAA championships, got into the mix. And so they flirted for a little while, and then that guy decided, I'm staying where I am. I'm in a really sweet place right now. Although, listen, if I'm a basketball coach and somebody says, do you want to be head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers? I'm going to listen to them, right? It's
But I would be hesitant to coach LeBron James.
I would be hesitant
because you're not going to be the coach.
And
you're not
the boss.
You may end up being
You're
Darvin Ham.
you're the
who's
figurehead,
looking for a job right now. So if it
I don't
goes,
want to coach any of those divas, really.
Because listen,
true.
we all know that, like, if they win the championship, who gets the credit? LeBron. If they don't win the championship, who gets the blame? Darvin
coach.
Ham.
Yeah.
Or, some other player. All right. So, so that coach goes back to Connecticut. They end up hiring J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick's, his resume, if he had one, would say coaching experience. Girls' 4th grade basketball team. So he was a really good.
Yeah, he was an NBA player.
He was a really good NBA player, really good shooter, and he's been on ESPN a lot as a prognosticator. But he doesn't have coaching experience. But he got the job. So, if in case y'all have a guess, LeBron does a podcast, and you want to guess who he does a podcast with?
Redick.
J.J. Redick, right? So basically,
I didn't know that.
So
that's the regular lineup.
that's the regular lineup.
they probably
LeBron
don't
James
have
and
as many listeners as we do. though.
It's not on this level of quality, but they say that it exists out
But
there.
it sounds like he handpicked his next coach.
There you go. All right, so he handpicked his next coach, which is fine. Listen, these guys that are getting paid $50 million a year, keep that number in mind. We'll come back to that in just a second. They're getting paid $50 million a year. You probably ought to get a say in maybe who the coach is going to be if they're making a change. They're going to make sure that their star is happy because, oh, by the way, if you didn't know it, LeBron's contract was up.
Yeah, he was a free agent.
He was a
after
free
this season.
agent, just signed yesterday or
He's the
today.
most recognizable name in the NBA right
exactly.
Most
And
marketable name.
Everybody's like, well, he's definitely going back to L.A., but he could have decided not to go back to L.A. But if we hire your best buddy there, your podcast buddy, that's probably a pretty good idea.
And there was another thing that sweetened that pot.
There was maybe another thing that happened. So don't know if you know this, but LeBron's son Bronny declared for the NBA draft.
Now, was he a starter in college? He did. Who did he play
All right,
for?
so interesting you mentioned this. So
okay.
LeBron was Bronny played 1 year at USC.
Yep.
Now, if you don't remember, last summer, this is
Major health issues.
Yeah, we're timeouting here, right? This is not funny. He had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Or some kind of heart incident and playing.
Yep.
And so it was a great deal of concern, a lot of testing, and so, but he was able to come back. But that, I do believe that probably slowed him down this year at USC. But this year at USC, he averaged between 4 and 5 points a game.
LeBron James.
That's correct. So between 4 and 5 points a game. Not typically the guy who's going to declare for the NBA draft. Because I don't know if you know this about the NBA draft, but it consists of 2 rounds. Everybody picks 2 players. So if you're not in the top 60, you need to go back to school. Yep. Because they've got a rule now where these guys can declare for the NBA. They can go to all these camps and everything, get evaluated by the agents, and then they can decide, hey, I'm going back to school. Nobody's picking me. Mm-hmm. But if your name happens to be Bronny James, well, maybe there's a team that might pick you because there's this guy that's on one of these teams that's always had and has stated that he had a dream of playing in the NBA with his son.
LeBron James.
LeBron James, you got it.
Mm-hmm. That's him.
And so, do you know how many players in NBA history have ever played on an NBA team with their son?
I'm going to say 0.
The answer to that is 0.
I was watching something. My son was playing. They used, this is so rare in professional sports that they had to go outside basketball, as you just said, to get other examples. And the baseball example was Griffey, Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Jr.
Yep.
And I had an example of a father who played hockey like into his 50s.
Okay.
And his 2 sons, and I know
Might have
nothing
been
about
Gordie Howe, maybe.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly knew about the
Howe.
Tim with the trivia knowledge.
the Griffies. But,
That's amazing that you remember that.
But
that was the only 3 professional sports examples of this happening.
And if you think about that, baseball and hockey, there are long careers in baseball and hockey, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But there are not long careers in the NBA.
Well,
Gordie
you said
Howe-
4 years.
4.5 years.
Gordie Howe
right?
had gray hair, like totally gray hair.
Right. And so for this to happen in the NBA, never say never, but it's unlikely that it will ever happen again.
But if your
So
dad is the greatest player
so this is going to be
of
cool,
the modern era.
right? I mean, it's going to be
LeBron James.
that's right.
him.
And so this is going to be cool when it happens, and it'll make history, and it's unlikely that it'll ever happen again. But here's what happened in the draft. So they have the first night, right? Bronny's not mentioned. Wouldn't expect him to be. Nobody's wasting a first-round draft pick on a guy that scored between 4 and 5 points a game. And, oh, by the way, is 6'1". 6'1".
I thought he was 6'2". Whatever.
We'll be gracious and give him 6'2".
That may be the coach's measurement.
Yeah, that's with his tennis shoes on and his platform.
Because when I was in high school, according to the thing that hung on the wall in the gym, I was 6'2". And I was, maybe if I was standing on a phone book, I'd have been 6'2".
So the second round of the draft comes. And so as it's being told, Rich Paul, who is LeBron and now Bronny's agent, begins to call the teams in the second round. Because, number one, there had always been a little bit of discussion of, well, LeBron's a free agent. LeBron's always wanted to play with his son. What if we drafted
pick him up?
What if we drafted Bronny and then said, hey, LeBron, come on over here. And so
Or draft him and trade him to the Lakers for a better pick.
there you go. And so Rich Paul starts calling these teams in the second round. So he's their agent, and he's saying, you draft Bronny, and he's going to Australia to play. So basically, they threaten these teams, don't draft him until we. Not that these teams would really want him, unless they wanted to do one of the things that Jason just said. Either I want to try to lure LeBron to my team, or I want to say, hey, how about does LeBron want to play with Bronny? I'll trade him to you for your pick, and I'll take your second round pick next year. Something like that. And so, but all those teams just caved and let him. Either that, or they didn't want the headache of this, or it's like, what if I get stuck with Bronny? I don't really want him.
Right.
So there's a lot of variations here, but comes down to pick 55, and the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James.
So, what was the manager's name? Did you say it was Bobby the Brain Heenan?
Bobby the Brain, exactly.
Okay. That sounds like something he would have done back in the day.
So now again, the Lakers, seemingly under the leadership of LeBron,
James.
exactly, have drafted LeBron's son to be on the team. Today, I heard on the way home, he signed a 4-year deal for $8 million.
It's not bad when you only average 4 to 5 points a game.
Exactly. And
That's a lot of money per point.
And so I think it was this morning I heard that LeBron signed what do they call a 1+1?
Yep.
A 1 year guaranteed with a 1 year player option for 50. I think it was $102 million a year or something like that. So the other part of this was
The money.
that LeBron said he would be willing to sign less than a max deal if they could bring in another player, right? Because remember at the very beginning of this, I said it's him and the unibrow. And so they didn't. They need somebody else if they're going to think about winning.
Because he'd also like to, in addition to having his son on the team, he'd like to win a game.
He'd like
or
to
two.
win, and it doesn't appear on the surface that Bronny's the missing piece. So here come all the free agents, right? Here comes James Harden, and here comes Klay Thompson, and here comes I forget. Yeah, there were several big names that popped out just in the last 2 or 3 days. I think Sunday night at 6 was when free agency started, and they all just start running right past Los Angeles. Now, why do you think that is? What happens if Los Angeles wins the championship? Who's it because of?
LeBron James.
What if I go to Los Angeles and they don't win? Whose fault is it?
Yours.
Mine. And probably the coaches. We'll probably both get the blame. But so here we are. So all the free
And
agencies.
who wants to play with a guy like that? I mean, really, who has that much power?
It's crazy. It is
On a
crazy how much
team-
power this guy's got.
And
You don't want to play
and
with
just
a guy
hint
like
of
that.
ego.
And you remember
a little
Just a
bit.
hint.
You remember all that good stuff that I said, right? This is what makes him so complex. Is there's all this goodness
And the
but
way
there-
that he
but
complains
it-
about this country that has made him so rich
So
for playing a game.
You've done stepped in it now, Drew.
I mean, the things that he has said about the United States.
It is bad.
It's just it's hard to swallow when you just see him getting everything he ever wants. And sure, he's worked hard, and yes, he's talented, but there's a line where this just gets ridiculous. $100 million a year.
yeah, but the interesting part.
Who needs that much money?
Here's the interesting part,
I would take it.
and this is very LeBron-y. It's a 1+1,
Yeah.
and a 1+1 means I may decide to stick around and take your second $50 million, but I'm not committing to you to do that so that whatever I want you to do at the end of this year, I can make you do too.
So it's not $100 million per year. It's $100 million for the total.
For the 2
$50
years.
million per year.
That's right. It's $50 million a year.
How is he going to make it? Really? I mean, with inflation and grocery prices,
Well,
It's
it's
gonna be
going to be
tough.
tough.
let me tell you how he's going to make it. Again, this is the good side of LeBron. A very good businessman. LeBron's current net worth, $1.2 billion.
Guy made $1 billion
he's
playing basketball.
Billion.
But even if you add all of his salary together, he's done very
He's
well
invested
outside the
well.
game. He's a smart guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of complexity here to things that he does well, but it's like, but then you hear all this stuff and it's like, this is why he's polarizing. Either you like him or you really don't like him at all. So
Well, every
it's
league
just
needs a good villain. Maybe he's the villain.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. Yep. So that is your LeBron James update for the day. What's to come next? Maybe he has them change their mascot. The team colors.
Or
Maybe they have to play at his house instead of the arena.
Here we go.
They're playing. I don't know.
you heard
they-
it here first, folks. LeBron James, president.
All right.
Oh, I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, speaking of president,
Drew,
Jason,
cue
over to you.
the presidential music. Guys, I'm going to jump off into deep water now. Deep water. So last Thursday, we had a special Thursday night broadcast here because we couldn't do it Wednesday night. And that night, we all talked, and we talked here a little bit about the upcoming debate. And I know we all watched it because we had quite the text communication going on during it. I, against better judgment, want to jump into debate topic.
It's hard to avoid. It's really hard to
it
avoid
is
this
the
week because it's
800-pound gorilla in the room.
And we don't like to talk about politics, but this is so much more than
I think
politics.
we can
right?
go
This is
outside.
theater.
I think we can go outside the politics of this.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who didn't watch it, picture the stage is set up. There's two podiums. President Biden is allowed to walk onto the stage first, followed by former President Donald J. Trump. And so Biden walks out to the podium, smiles for the cameras, waves, looks a little pale, just a little pale. And then the orange man shows up and very well tanned, obviously full
Angry.
of energy, has a scowl on his face that looks like somebody put something in his grits that morning. He just did not look happy. And the debate starts. There was no handshake. I'm not sure they even made eye contact. The debate starts. And to start with, this is going to be hard for me, but I would really like to compliment CNN on how they handled the debate.
I thought they did a
I thought
great
it was
job.
outstanding.
It was about the
was
most
fair.
to me, unbiased debate I've seen. I think the moderators did a really, really good job of maintaining the control that they could maintain. I thought the questions, there was a couple questions that I thought were odd, but for the most part, I thought the questions were good.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them went unanswered, but the questions
At
were
least they
fair.
asked some tough questions
They did.
to both candidates.
I felt like the only time that they saved President Biden was at a time that I was very glad they saved him.
Yeah, we all
Yeah.
wanted that to happen.
Yeah, he needed it. So the debate starts, and the first question goes to President Biden. And they had to have access to some of these questions or have at least practiced them. So you think first question is going to be a toss-up. Let's get the conversation going. And he starts answering the question. And you know when you're eating an ice cream cone or you're drinking a slushie and all of a sudden your brain gets brain freeze and you make this face like our viewers can't see it, but I just made a face where it's like something is not clicking, something's not right. About 15, 20 words into his answer, he freezes. And it didn't get much better as the
It's
night
the
went
face
on.
that in the movies when somebody dies and they don't close their eyes, the moment before the person puts the fingers over the eyelids and closes them, it's that moment in the movies. That's what he looked like.
And it
Just
was-
a corpse.
Guys, by the end of the debate, I found myself feeling sorry for Joe Biden that
Yeah.
they had marched him up in front of people.
It was
in
really
that
hard
condition.
to watch.
It really was. And to his credit, I thought Trump handled it about as well as Trump can handle it. I expected him to talk over him, to be, well, he was pompous and arrogant. That's just his personality. But I felt like he really was more controlled than I. It's like somebody had finally
Well, we all
listened
saw
to his
He
handlers.
listened to someone,
Yeah.
and
We saw
that's-
the awful
that's not
debates in
normal.
2020 that were just Trump just
And maybe he
losing
knew
control.
maybe he knew by just being quiet that he could
Somebody
he
had
could be
convinced
more
him of
effective.
Somebody convinced him that if you will let him talk,
You will be
this,
fine.
this will work in your
Well,
favor.
and they were cutting the mics off too.
That's right.
And that helped.
How
But
many
you never
questions?
really heard that background, like
There were a couple of times,
Not-
but that
not
was
much,
near
right?
the end.
Yeah.
They did good about getting quiet. How many times, though, during this debate, did the moderator ask the question and Joe Biden answer, and the moderator look at him and say, President Biden, there are still 80 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
And the question
else?
was, fill in the blank.
Right.
You haven't answered the question. Would you like to use the rest of your time to answer the question?
Right. And it was you have 80 seconds left. And remember, the rules of the debate is you have 2 minutes for your answer.
Yeah.
Right. So he had answered in 40 seconds, and
Which
there was
is
nothing
not
left.
what you see any presidential candidate doing, especially if they've had all that time to prepare. But guys, he had a cold.
Oh,
No.
I mean, y'all are being
Not
so
a cold.
not
No.
the cold.
So-
You know, a cold, he coughed maybe 3 times. I'll give him the
Rude.
cough was a cold. The cognitive dysfunction.
How is a
not
guy with a
cold.
cold supposed to put a sentence together?
I mean, Donald
how-
Trump
what
was
do you-
covered in orange paint, and he got through it okay. So I'm not speaking badly about people with dementia. I have a long family history of Alzheimer's and dementia.
They don't have the nuclear codes.
I feel for people and families that deal with dementia. Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, his staff, somebody should have said, he can't do this. We should not do a debate. And at some point, somebody should have just walked out there on stage, put their arm around him, and said, "All right, Joe, you tried. Let's just call it."
You're right. I think those individuals you just named and probably a few others bear a large part of that responsibility. But dementia or no dementia, he's still the most powerful man in the world.
That is true.
And they can't remove him against his will.
And boy,
He does not want to go.
boy, are they spinning the story about it. His wife is just, she's doubling down on, he's fine.
But Drew-
Everything's okay. And the world's like, no, it's Weekend at Bernie's.
Drew, right now, he's in the position of the most powerful man in the world, but there have to be others who are fulfilling the office of the most powerful man in the world.
It can't be him.
It cannot be him. Listen, that was not a
things
bad
aren't
night.
really going
We
all
went-
that well, though,
That is true.
in this country.
And
I kept
we went into this. We went into this debate with these little clips of things happening,
Which the media
that
said-
the media would say that is doctored.
Those are
stuff.
cheap fakes.
You know,
Yeah.
President Obama leading him off stage. He was talking to him. You know,
But I don't understand why people were surprised, because I've been seeing this for 2.5 years.
So if everybody, the media spun it that these are all fake news. It's not real.
But
the guys
what's the last big event? State of the Union.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that? And they were like, he killed it tonight, and all he did was scream.
No, he didn't.
Right?
Yeah.
But
that shot of adrenaline was still working.
and there's still something he can do. He can read.
Yeah.
And so, State of the Union, you go out there, you portray energy, and here's what you say. You say these words, nothing more,
And-
nothing less.
and we're
we're
gonna-
going to put in there pause, and don't read pause. If we do brackets around it, don't.
Even
don't
though
read
you
it,
have
right?
before. Yeah.
You know, but and so that there was all that spin of, we had set the bar on the ground and said if he makes it through the night at the State of the Union, he's going to have done a great thing. It's like, what are we doing here?
Isn't there something, I think it's the 25th Amendment, where the
Yeah.
cabinet can remove a president who
It
is
apparently-
unable to carry out his duties?
I was listening to the radio yesterday, and I think that starts with the vice president. I think it has to be initiated by the vice president, and then it goes to like the House and the Senate and back to the House, and he gets a chance to defend himself. It's a very
It should be a
involved
long process.
But
Yeah,
I
it
tell
should
you,
be a very
I'm not
difficult
convinced
process.
that she's capable of starting that process, because she's
Hey, we'll worry about that later. First, we got to get him out.
So he's looked, I was proud of him because he made it to the podium and he made it off stage. Because if you've watched him in meetings, he looks like a Roomba moving around the stage sometimes. Like he doesn't know where he's going. He walks this way and pauses.
I'm
and
sure.
turns.
Have you
He
seen
walks this way and pauses and
footage of
turns.
when it went off the air and she helps him down?
Yeah, yeah.
So basically, Trump darted off to go rip his shirt off or something, right? And
He was
just,
probably flexing in front of a
the
mirror.
night of
he
his
was,
life.
He was going to do like the Incredible Hulk thing or something, and so and then Jill comes over and brings him and leads him down toward where the moderators are, to shake hands or whatever. And there's one step down, and she made a big deal of getting him down that one step.
Yeah, and it looked like she was struggling. So I think another thing I took away from the debate is, why are we in a position where our two best candidates are, one of them 78 and one of them is it 78? I think it's 78 and the other one's 81 or 82. How out of a population of roughly 350 million people are these the two that we're coming down to? So I found a list. Actually, I didn't find it. I was shown this list by Rick at work today. I want to read it to you. These are things that are younger than our president and the guy that's running for president, who our former president.
All right.
And this is a short list. It will not take long. But these are things that are younger than Joe Biden and Donald J. Trump. Tupperware.
Wow.
Tupperware has been around for a shorter time than these people. Bill Clinton, younger, obviously. Walmart is younger. Credit cards are younger. Color TV. The interstate system. Highways, the interstate system. The state of Alaska is younger than these folks.
Wow.
Microwaves. Hawaii, the state of Hawaii.
I'm fine. Thank you.
Younger. No, that's Hawaii. I said Hawaii. Transistors are younger than these folks. Velcro, younger. ATMs are younger. Smoke detectors are younger. Silly putty, which was like the original toy, right? I picture that being around since the 1800s.
Get those with the
Did
funny
you ever have
papers.
Silly Putty,
I did.
Jason? Was it, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
it was gone by the time.
Yeah, you put that
the
on the
comics?
comics.
Oh, yeah.
peel
Sunday
it up,
comics.
And then you
And
could
you stretch
stretch
it
their
out.
faces out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the one, and I
Then
skipped.
then
I
was
can
nasty.
smell
when
it
you got
right now.
done with it, though, it was nasty. It
Oh,
turned
yes.
from pink to
Stunk, yeah.
like black.
Yeah, and it came in the little red
Eggs.
tube. And no matter what happened, you were eventually going to leave that tube in your pocket, and it was going to pop open, and you were going to wash your pants, and it was going to be awful. So I skipped one as I went through this list because this was the most shocking.
Okay.
Things that are younger than Joe Biden and Donald Trump. We've already said the state of Alaska and Hawaii. How about the country of India? India
okay.
is younger.
Because
than-
Gandhi and all that happened within their lifetimes.
So I saw that list today,
Wow.
and that's the people we have running to be the leaders of the free world. I mean,
I'm older than some of those items.
yeah, I mean, some of them are unfair, but
That's
states,
a crazy list.
Tupperware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
And so, Trump came to politics later in his life, but what we're dealing with here is nobody ever goes home from Washington.
no.
Right.
Nobody ever goes home. They go up there and they look like Katie Britt, and they come home in
Look
a box.
like Richard Shelby.
Yeah, I mean,
They come home looking like Mick Jagger.
They wish. They look more like
Richards.
Joe
Keith
Biden.
Richards,
Yeah, Keith Richards.
Keith Richards, yeah.
but he was a senator. He tries for president 3 times. He's a senator for 50 years. I mean,
That's all he's ever done.
And this is not a Democratic issue, right? Mitch McConnell,
Oh, no.
it's not a Republican issue either. Nancy Pelosi, and who's the one that just died minutes after
California?
she finally,
Dianne
Dianne
Feinstein.
Feinstein, yeah. And so all these folks, I mean, they're just propping them up because that name, people will click that name in the voting booth, and whoever's associated with them's got all the power.
Which is why we have really no new ideas and a bunch of stuff that doesn't work well, because we don't have room for new thoughts, because you can't get the old people. And I don't mean the old people as an age. I mean the old people that have been serving in that position for 30 years or 40 years.
That are just interested in the power. And it's not about age, really, because
No.
like you said, those two men were basically the same age.
They are.
And there was a huge difference in their cognitive abilities.
Well,
But there's another problem going along with this, the power and the age and everything, and that is when you do some simple math, and these folks go to Washington for 40 years and they never make more than $150,000 a year, and all of a sudden they're worth $50 million. That doesn't compute.
There's a little
corruption.
corruption going on up there. So I want to, before we close out our discussion about the debate, I want to bring up probably what at least I thought was both the most bizarre, awkward,
How
but
do you
also
choose?
humorous moment of the whole thing, where they start talking about their physical health. It was on the question about at 82 years old, how is your physical health? And it goes to Trump, and Trump being Trump says, well, at 78, I am still the club championship, not senior champion, but I am the club champion. Of the last 2 years, I play golf, blah, blah, blah. And so they get into this golf thing. And
he brought up cognitive tests, too.
Yeah, he did.
They
And
said
Joe-
it was perhaps the greatest cognitive
In the
test that
history of
was
the world.
ever taken.
And then Joe Biden's like, I've got a 6 handicap. And Trump said what was the greatest line of the whole night. That's the biggest lie he's told tonight. He's not a 6 handicap.
That's what got him upset.
I've seen his swing. That's when he talked over the mic.
Yeah, and then Biden tried to throw a haymaker when he said, "Yeah, and you're 6'5", 235," but he couldn't even get that out really well. But he was trying to come back at him like,
Well, and then there was the
challenge
whole
his fitness.
you're acting childish or something. Let's stop acting childish.
Because then there was the handicap thing where they started squabbling, and then the other thing Joe tried was, "How about we go out and play, but you have to carry your bag."
Which I thought Trump
again, he
had
was
missed
taking
a good
another shot at him
opportunity
for
there.
being, he was basically saying you're a fat boy.
Yeah. And then he said, and then Biden changed his number to an 8. You notice that? He first was a 6, and then a minute later it was an 8. And it was just that whole...
He forgot during his last round that he hit the windmill that time, and
if we
that
are...
took him from a 6 to an 8.
If there was anything in the debate that showed that it's 2 rich old white men that are running for
man.
president,
That
it
was
was
the
the golf.
that was the
It was
whitest discussion ever.
We are going to have a measuring contest now, and I'm the better golfer. No, I'm the better golfer. That's what they were. That's what they actually got like angry at each other about.
The doctors said they had never seen as much cognition of anyone in the history of cognition.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were lining up. Both of them told lies.
Oh, man.
But
Lots of them.
Biden's was they were intentionally misleading lies,
Yeah.
or he got numbers wrong. Trump's were just mostly his exaggeration.
Oh, yeah.
Right. It was just
Everybody.
every time, right.
He didn't score the highest in the history of the world.
No.
They were fact checking stuff like that. It's like, have you ever heard Donald Trump speak?
Yeah. Have you heard of hyperbole? He was
It's
using
the worst. The worst in the history of the world or the greatest in the history of the world. There's
never
no in
anywhere in
between.
between.
no. And
That's
and,
his O's and ones. His binary system is greatest and worst.
Oh, it's so funny too, and he's like a caricature. Watching Trump reminds me of like Foghorn Leghorn, Yosemite Sam had a love child, and you get Trump.
He's an entertainer. I mean,
He is.
He's a celebrity.
Yeah.
He had a TV show, and he's funny.
Oh yeah.
Let me throw out this one other thing about Biden in the debate, and I think this is another interesting thing where perhaps you just can't recreate the debate environment when you're trying to coach these guys up. You can't create enough stress and enough of this scenario. I can put Jason over here and say, all right, Drew, Jason's Donald Trump. Okay. But I can't make you look at him knowing that you hate his guts. Right. You're the sucker. I'm not the sucker.
My son,
All right. So
my daughter is a son. No, wait. Excuse me. Anyway,
we killed Medicare.
beat up a guy named Medicare.
And then popcorn showed up.
So
I
the
made him
thing I
hurt.
wanted to say about the preparation for this is, how did they ever send him out without saying, Joe, if you use one number, if you quote one number, we're not taking you home on Air Force One.
We will not
You can
change
take
your
a-
depends
You
after
can
the
take
debate.
a Greyhound back to Washington.
Yeah.
Is because everyone that came out, right, part of our text chain was, he said 1,500 billion million thousand, because he couldn't get the quantity right. And it was just another one of those sad things that was going on up there. But I think, again, you couldn't figure, they couldn't play this game and say, because they could have said, all right, Jason's playing the role of Trump. He makes you really mad. And then we say, Joe, tell us what you've done about the border. And nowhere in there could he have started using any numbers. Otherwise, they would have said, all right, time out. We got a new rule here. There are only words, no numbers.
He said, and I just looked in our text chain from that night because I sent this quote to y'all. At one point, Biden said he had created thousands of millions of jobs, which 1,000 millions is a billion. We don't have a billion people here, so I know you've not created thousands of millions of jobs.
Well, a bunch of us working 2 jobs, Jason. Come on.
1,000 million jobs.
And I love, you're talking about the spin after the debate. They talked about the cold. And another thing they did is they blamed the staff. There have been a few people who have blamed the debate.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job.
preppers.
Yep.
And,
Listen, there were what, 4 or 5 things they were going to talk about in this debate. They were going to talk about inflation. They were going to talk about the border. They were going to
talk about things that are his everyday job. I mean, you can talk
right.
about your work. Jason can talk about his work. I can talk about mine.
That's right.
They're
And
just
so-
asking him to talk about what he does on a daily basis.
That's right. And I heard somewhere
raisins.
I'd heard somewhere along the way that there had been some discussion about Trump just not prepping for this thing at all. And because he was going from
He
one
didn't
event
sound
to the
scripted.
other, right? And so he's going through all this stuff that he's going to say. I mean, how much prep do you have to say?
And when-
I'm the greatest.
Well, and when every
The
comment
best
is
of the best.
hyperbole, you don't have to really get your facts straight. It was an interesting. It was sad to
Will
watch.
there be another debate?
If they put him back out there,
There's
they
one
should
scheduled.
they should be charged for criminal negligence. That guy should not be put.
Will
back
he
out.
be the candidate when they get to September?
Well, this morning, what did they say? 20 Democratic Congress people
Yeah.
said
One of his closest
they wanted
friends came
a different
out first.
person running.
But apparently also the Biden inner circle has tightened up, and it's primarily people with the last name of Biden right
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so, they're not
A lot of
going-
great judgment in that
know.
group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I read something earlier today that said that, like, this is unbelievable, right? But they came from Camp David and went like into a speechwriters meeting or something. And here goes Joe, and here goes Hunter.
Yeah.
And so, like, Hunter's showing up on calls that
Hasn't
Joe's
left his
on,
side.
right? And we do remember who this guy is, right?
Well, like Trump, a convicted felon,
Recovering
which I thought
crack
I
addict.
thought I knew Biden was going to work that into the debate at some point. It was, guys, it was a disastrous mess. It's almost embarrassing, like, to know that the
It is
world,
embarrassing.
to know that the world was watching that. It's a wonder we've not been invaded at this point, because it's a bunch
We
of.
are being invaded.
Well, that's true, but there's a bunch of buffoons that are running this place at this point.
Yeah.
It's scary. But the reason is because people that are good, moral people don't want to go to Washington. They see how it
But they can't
corrupts.
do what you got to do to get that kind of money going,
No.
or they won't do it.
No.
All right, we're gonna have to
we could
majorly
talk about
shift
that one for a
gears
while,
here
right?
to
Let
get into the
let
passage.
our blood pressure
So
come back down a little
I
bit.
think the only way to do that is to take a break. So we'll be back in a minute. time for our passage tonight. If we can get control of ourselves and get serious here for a moment. Jason's got it for us.
Yeah, we've got a quote this week from Henry Ford. And, we try to vet these quotes. And I went back and did a little research on this. So the first time this quote was put out and attributed to Ford was in 1947, September of 1947. Shortly after he died, Reader's Digest used this quote and attributed it to Henry Ford. And Reader's Digest in 1947 didn't lie. I mean, maybe they did, but we're not talking Reader's Digest 2020. We're talking Reader's Digest 1947. Yeah. So I feel like this is a pretty good quote. Reading through some of the stuff, it sounded like it was something he said. So here's the quote. Henry Ford, inventor of the Ford automobile, he inspired the assembly line. I think that's what he did more so than anything, was inspired the assembly line. But I thought this was a little bit different quote. Of course, I may be wrong. We may take it in a direction we've gone in before, but let me read it. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So I'll read it one more time. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So it's a simple quote, but with a lot of depth, I think. And to me, as I read this, it talks about the power of our thoughts and what our thoughts allow our actions to do, how our thoughts guide what we're doing. And we can think ourselves into a positive situation. We can think ourselves into success. We can think ourselves into getting things done. But we can also think ourselves out of those things. We can think ourselves into a state of loss. We can think ourselves into a state of inaction. And so much of what we do in our life is guided by how we think about things. I think it's the battle between positive thought versus negative thought. At least that's how I read it on the surface.
I have to admit, I struggled with this, and I still don't know if I agree with it. And part of that is how brief it is, because it can mean a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, I appreciate the sentiment, and what you just said, the way you explained it, is right. I mean, if you don't have a positive attitude, if you're not optimistic, if you're not looking for opportunities, you're going to fail. And if you're expecting failure, you will definitely get failure. Mm-hmm. But we don't always get what we want. And we can't always do everything we put our mind to. There are limits.
There are.
In the world. And there are setbacks. And yes, this attitude will help you learn from your failures and push forward. But I think if you get into this... they call it manifestation.
Yeah.
Where, and some other quotes have brought this up. Maybe I'm a broken record on this thing, but if you have this idea, hey, if I just believe it, it's going to happen, you might be missing some growth opportunities. You might be missing some refinement that God is bringing your way, some even better things than you want. Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think that this, the general idea is the power of positive thinking, right? Yeah. And that's a real thing. Sure. But it's also what I hear, you often talk about when we study Proverbs, right? That a proverb can be a general truth, but it's not a guarantee.
Well, when you were saying that earlier, I was thinking about train up a child in the way he should go, that proverb, that it's more of a general truth. It's not a hard and fast law. And I don't think this is either. But I do think even in our failures, our positive thinking can get us through those things. So some of us, we fail at something and we give up. Some of us, we fail at something and we go back to work because we think, okay, I've learned this through that failure. Was it Thomas Edison that said he didn't find one way to create a light bulb? He found 2,000 ways to not create a light bulb. Right. I think it was Edison that said that. And so some of us look at our failures as just that, as a failure. And then some of us, if we think we can and we have positive thoughts about it, we see our failures as opportunities for growth, like what you were just talking about.
I was just mentioning the power of positive thinking. I think that if there's one side of this quote that's more true than the other, I think it's the part about if you think you can't, you're
Yeah.
right. Because
Now that is a
as,
guarantee.
As powerful as the power of positive thinking is, there is more power in the power of negative thinking.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Because, on the just like Drew said, on the positive side, you may think you can, you may give it your all, you may take it, go into it guns blazing with a positive attitude. And there may be external reasons. There may be all kinds of reasons that you don't meet your eventual goal 100%. And we've talked about, learning and failure and all kinds of things like that with other quotes. But on this negative side, if I am convinced that I can't do something, I will make that a truth.
Absolutely. The other side, and I think it goes to what you were talking about, Drew, that this is not an absolute. So when I think about like recovery from addiction and things like that, there are a lot of people that deal with addiction that think they can. They're positive as can be. I can beat this. I can defeat this on my own. And they can't. They fail every single time. And in 12-step programs, one of the very first steps is admitting that you are powerless over your addiction and that your life is unmanageable. So it's relinquishing control. It's saying,
That sounds like saying I can't.
it's saying I can't do this on my own. I need my higher power. I need a group of people around me. I need God working in my life. I need a support group around me, because I've tried doing this and fixing this all by myself for so many years. And it was met with failure after failure after failure after failure. And only in letting go of control, only in letting go of I can do this myself, can you truly find healing. And so I think that goes against this. Now, I think what Tim said is 100% true. If you think I can't do this and you are selling yourself short on your ability and your talents and things like that, then you're not going to push really hard. I think that's a little different than letting go and saying you can't do it by yourself.
Well, and in the 12 steps, you're saying I can, but only if I get help.
That's right. Only if I'm willing to let go of self.
Yeah.
And so I think that goes against this, because there's a lot of people that, whether it's gambling, drinking, drugs, you name it, that think I can get through this all by myself. I don't have to get help. And they're constantly met with failure and thinking that they have the answer, that they can fix it, that they don't have to reach out for help, creates this cycle of failure, and they just get stuck in that. They can't. So I think that's one exception. As I read this quote when I sent it earlier, I'm going to say this week, so our listeners don't think that we just do this, in the middle of the afternoon on the day we're casting. But that popped in my head as an example that's kind of opposite of this.
When it comes to, when you think about Henry Ford being the author of this quote, it's very possible that he's thinking about innovation and the things that he's invented and
Trial and error.
Right. Trying to achieve more than, so, when he was born, there was no such thing as a car, right? So, I mean, so just that kind of innovation. And I've always been amazed by people who invent things, right? It's like you begin with some idea and you create something that's never existed before. And those people are dreamers, and, sometimes, maybe they're thinking about something that is sort of impossible, or maybe they figure out the hurdle for something that seemed impossible in the past and they can make it come to pass. Who would have figured, during my grandparents' lifetime that we'd carry our phone around with us everywhere, and not only we would carry our phone around, that seems space age, but, I can look at it and see your face from across the world on it. And, and so all of those kinds of things that are just, phenomenal. And I say all that in relation to this comment to say, or this quotation, that I think, dreaming big is a good thing. And sometimes it's something that we don't do, and we limit ourselves. And people who dream big, while this says, if you think it, you can, they have to realize that, that's a world of great speculation. And so, you may, to Edison's comment, you may fail 2,000 times and have that one enormous success. So it's very
but that's still doing it. And
it's
I think
still
that
doing it, right? It's
Edison and Ford would say,
right, what is, you can in this text, right?
It means you can with setbacks.
Right.
Yeah.
They would tell you and have said on the record that, you fail and you fail and you fail, but you keep that attitude, I can, and you'll get to where you want to go.
And you end up solving, again, taking this idea of being an inventor, sometimes you solve a different problem than you set out to solve, right?
That's right.
I mean, like the space race was a big example of that, right? There were all these discoveries that they made in a
dozens
quest
of
to get to the moon,
inventions.
right? All these inventions. Another one that's an easy one to pluck out as an illustration sometimes is like the inventor of the Post-it note, right? That guy, he sort of invented that adhesive that does what a Post-it does, doesn't stick too much, doesn't stick too little. It was an accident, right? It was it was a adhesive that didn't do its job.
And I want to thank him for that.
And he found an application for it that I wear out.
Me too. I love me some Post-it notes.
Just sometimes the definition of can is just that you're learning, right? You're learning what doesn't work. You learn something along the way toward a failed attempt at something. But, aiming big is a great thing. We need to do that as the church. We need to set goals, and, sometimes we don't land where we always want to, but we're trying. Right?
And
we're striving,
As a general principle, I think this one just talks to the power of our thoughts, the power of how we think. And as Christians, we're told how we need to be thinking, what we need to be dwelling on. And I love Philippians 4:8, where it says, "Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence, if anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things." And sometimes we don't do that. We let our minds drift into the can'ts, the problems. And the writer here and the Holy Spirit's telling us, dwell on these peaceful things, dwell on these good things, dwell on what God has given you. And that's going to help guide your mind. It says, the things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. I just think that's such a powerful statement of how we are. I mean, the Bible's telling us this is how you need to be thinking. I think it's in Colossians where it says to set your minds on things above, not on the earth. And so I think that's an important part of it too, is in a general principle, how we're thinking, the positivity behind our thinking. Are we in Scripture? Are we outside of Scripture? Are we dwelling on things of the world? Are we dwelling on things above? Affects a lot of what this quote is talking about too.
One last thing I'd like to say about it is Ford is also telling us, I'm just a normal human being.
Oh, yeah.
We put people on a pedestal and act like there are gods among us. Inventors, athletes, creators, entertainers, celebrities. And we think successful business people, wealthy people, and we think they are composed of different stuff than me. And there are talented people, but when you strip back the layers and you get to the truth of who they are, it's shocking how human these successful people are. And a lot of their advice is, look, I have been doing this for 20 years, 30 years. I didn't have my first success until after I failed for decades.
Wouldn't give up.
And the only difference between me and you is that I kept trying, kept getting up, and kept thinking that I can.
Yeah.
And that's, said by Henry Ford and Thomas Edison over and over again. I like to look at the stories behind great authors, writers, and they'll talk about hundreds of rejection letters. And they just keep writing. And, some people write dozens of books before the first one is accepted. And I'm talking about classic works.
Oh, yeah. Well, and when you were talking about that, I thought about the Jimmy V speech, never give up, never give up. And I think that's what Ford's pointing to. But I do think that we forget when we see people with this ultimate success, and we're a little bit jealous of their success, what we forget is all the backstory. And I think, was it Malcolm Gladwell had a book years ago, maybe.
Outliers?
Yeah. Great book that talks about how things lined up and the amount of work and the amount of time.
Yeah, the 10,000 hour
spent.
rule.
Yeah. I mean, great book that kind of pointed to that.
I've got one last thought too, and I was just thinking about how often when you look at God's construction of the church and the fact that He has multiple men leading our congregations, I think you need in those groups different personalities, and that's part of God's design, right? Is that the blend of people help to make a better thing than one, right? Than if He had said, there's one elder who leads this congregation. And I think in each one of those groups, I think it's beneficial to the Lord's church to have this person, to have this quotation personified, to have that person that always says, we can go do this. And he probably has to be tempered with maybe someone who's more of a pragmatist, right? But that's
an accelerator and a brake pedal.
That's the beauty of eldership and God's design is you have these different types, but you need that person. I won't call him a dreamer, but there's a little bit of dreamer in him who says, I know you think that what we're saying here is preposterous, but we can do this.
Well, and sometimes those roles, depending on the project, they may reverse.
Absolutely.
Your dreamer may become the pessimist, and your pessimist may be the dreamer. It just depends on their interest.
Right.
And that's where having that group that's working together balance each other out.
Yeah. Well, that's a good discussion. Another great quote, and hope that it's helpful to our listeners. Thank you so much for sticking with us. 31 episodes now, so we're really happy about that. We appreciate all the feedback, and of course, we'd love for you to leave us a rating and review on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon, Audible, whatever it may be. Just thank you so much for listening. We are going to be back next week with a new passage. We'll let John take us out.
Follow us on Instagram at passages_podcast and join us next time on Passages.